Bonsoir, French students. How are you doing this evening? Welcome to video 2 of Chapitre 2. So the first video that you hopefully have watched before now would be about the géoculture topic, which was a little bit more in depth about the city of Nice and also about recognizing some words in French that are very similar to English, what we might call cognates. And in this presentation, we'll be looking at le temps libre et les loisirs. And so le temps, right up here, would be time. So you can think of a word like tempo, which is a musical word meaning time or rhythm. So that's a good way to remember that word. Libre is like to liberate, to be free. So it's free time. Et les loisirs, so kind of like free time activities, hobbies. Okay, so this first question that you see right here has a few question things going on with it. You already learned before that est-ce que is a way to ask a question. So I could have a statement right here. Vous aimez faire après les cours en général. Vous aimez faire, you like to do. Okay, après les cours en général, after the courses or after your classes in general. So when I put qu'est-ce que in front of that, est-ce que is turning this into a question, and the que in front, which would be the word spelled Q-U-E, which means what, que. So it's basically, what do you like to do after your classes in general, every day? Okay, so that's kind of how we put together those different pieces of the question. So how would you answer that question? And here you have a few different options. The first option is j'aime. The verb aimer means to like or to love. J'aime means I like to do whatever. So j'aime faire beaucoup de choses. I like to do a lot of things. Je n'aime pas. Okay, as you know by now, ne aime pas before the verb just turns it into a negative. It makes it opposite. So je n'aime pas. I don't like. Je préfère. Okay, I prefer. That's an easy one to recognize from English too, of course, to prefer something. Coming from the verb préférer. Okay, another question that we see here, and we have the same structure of qu'est-ce que, which is basically what to begin a question. So what do you, vous voudriez faire, what would you like to do? Okay, voudriez is probably something you haven't seen before. It comes from the verb vouloir, which means to want. This form of vouloir, voudriez, basically means what would you like. Okay, it's a more advanced tense that you learn a little bit later on in your French studies, but just know for now it's a polite way of asking, what would you like to do? Okay, qu'est-ce que vous voudriez faire? What would you like to do? Aujourd'hui, today, après les cours, after your classes or after the classes. Okay, and a polite way to respond to that would be je voudrais. Je voudrais just means I would like. Je voudrais faire ça, je voudrais faire les études, I would like to study. Okay, so these are all different ways of expressing what you like to do or what you would like to do in your free time. So to review, j'aime is I like, je n'aime pas, I do not like, je préfère, I prefer, and finally, je voudrais, I would like. All right, let's take a look at some more illustrated ways of talking about this. As I was looking through these slides, I was thinking, all of these activities kind of seem like pre-pandemic activities, and you'll see on the next slide that all of the images we see there sort of seem like pandemic activities. Maybe it's a good way to keep them straight in your mind. Okay, so le weekend, easy to recognize, of course. On the weekend, j'aime sortir. J'aime, of course, means I like. Sortir means to go out. So, j'aime sortir avec des amis. So I like to go out with some friends. J'aime, what do you like to do? You can say many things that you like to do. So, j'aime aller au cinéma. Aller means to go. Okay, so you can easily guess that this is going to the movies, right? J'aime aller au cinéma. So aller à le cinéma, when we combine à and le, we get au. Aller au cinéma. Or aller voir un film. That's the same way, or basically talking about the same activity in a different way. So aller is to go, voir is to see. Un film, so to go see a film or a movie. Okay, aller au café. So again, we have au, which is a combination of a plus le. So aller à le café becomes aller au café. Or aller prendre un verre or un café. Okay, so you can go to a cafe or you can go to take. Okay, so literally prendre means to take, but in English we would translate this as to have. So aller prendre un verre, to have a glass, which means to have a drink, could mean an alcoholic drink. Un café, a coffee. Okay, so you could get together with friends to have a drink or a coffee. Dîner au restaurant, this should be pretty easy to understand. Dîner, of course, is to dine or to go and have dinner at a restaurant. Et aller en boîte or aller en boîte de nuit, to go. Boîte means box and de nuit means of the night. So it's like a night box if you want to translate it literally, but it just means nightclub. Or aller danser, to go and dance. And of course, while you're there, you could say, j'aime écouter de la musique. Okay, so I like to listen. Écouter is listen. Écouter de la musique, listen to some music. Or j'aime faire du sport. Okay, I like to do sports, literally, but in English we would say I like to play sports, right? Or j'aime jouer au tennis. Jouer is to play a sport. Jouer au tennis, jouer au basket, au football, au volley. Okay, football, I guess, is probably referring to soccer in the case of French. If we were talking about American football, then it would be jouer au football américain. Okay, and finally, courir. It's kind of related to course, like running on a course. So courir is to run. Faire du vélo, if you've watched Le Tour de France recently, I've been watching that with my husband at home. He is from Colombia, and they have a lot of cyclists from Colombia who take part in that. So we've been watching that with lots of excitement. So faire du vélo, which means to ride a bike. Faire de l'exercice is just simply to do some exercise. So you can put j'aime in front of any of these things, and you can talk about liking any of those activities. You could also say je n'aime pas, and it would mean the opposite, that you don't like to do those activities. Okay, so moving on to our last section here. Here are a few other things that we can do when we stay home. So as I was saying, during these kind of pandemic and quarantine times, we might be spending some more time at home. So here, as it tells us, après les cours, after our classes, je suis fatigué. Okay, fatigué, you might recognize the English word fatigue, which means to be tired, right? So je suis fatigué means I am tired. If I add an extra E, it means I'm female and I'm describing myself. So je suis fatigué et je préfère rester à la maison. So I prefer to stay at home. Rester means to stay, and you can connect that with the word rest. Okay, j'aime, once again, I can say all the things that I like to do. J'aime lire. Okay, lire is to read. J'aime dormir. I think when I was a college student, that was probably one of my favorite activities. You have a pretty crazy schedule sometimes when you're a college student. J'aime parler au téléphone. So I like to talk on the phone. Or j'aime envoyer des textes. Des textos. So j'aime envoyer. I like to send. Okay. And let's see. Moving on. J'aime jouer de la guitare. or j'aime jouer de la batterie, j'aime jouer du piano. So in all of these cases, jouer means to play an instrument rather than to play a sport. And you notice that we use de, jouer de, to talk about playing an instrument. So I don't say j'aime jouer la guitare, jouer de la guitare, or j'aime jouer de la batterie, or j'aime jouer du piano. And in the case of piano, it's du because piano is a masculine noun. Guitar and batterie are both feminine nouns, so we say de la for those, and then we combine de plus le to get du for piano. J'aime regarder la télé ou la télévision. So it just, I imagine it's more common to just abbreviate that to télé like we would with TV in English. Oh, regarder means basically you can kind of pull the English word regard, which is a way of looking. So to regarder is to watch TV. J'aime jouer à des jeux. Oh, in this case, I like to play games. And we put that same, like a little preposition à when we're talking about games. Jouer à des jeux. Vidéo, in this case, video games. And finally, j'aime travailler sur l'ordinateur. So I like to work on the computer. Okay, we're doing lots of that these days, right? And finally, j'aime surfer sur Internet. Okay, so surf the internet. We've kind of, I imagine this is an English word that's been borrowed into French and turned into a verb, surfer, just like we would say surf the internet. So with all of these activities, if we go back to the very first slide that we saw here, you can use any of these expressions to talk about any of those activities. So, j'aime sortir, j'aime courir, j'aime jouer du piano. I can say, je n'aime pas faire du sport, je n'aime pas aller au cinéma. That's not true, but that's an example. Or je préfère lire tous les jours. I prefer to read every day. Je préfère quoi d'autre? What else? Je préfère aller au café. I can say je voudrais aller prendre un verre. I would like to go have a drink. Or je préfère jouer au tennis. So I can take any of those expressions and I can talk about my preferences in that way. So this basically gives you lots of new expressions, lots of ways to talk about what you like, don't like, or would like to do, and different activities that you can do. So as a college student, it's probably pretty useful to talk about all these activities. Okay, so that's everything for video 2. And in the next presentation, we'll be moving on to talk about l'infinitif, which is a form of verbs that we'll begin to talk about. So I hope you all have a great night, bonne nuit, and until the next time.